Hello and welcome to VIP Boxing's Bell to Bell podcast. I think we're on about episode 43. If you download this on iTunes or Spotify, great. Leave a review. If you're watching our free mushies on YouTube, even better. Thanks very much. I'm Steve Lillis. With me, my usual co-host, John Evans. I know, John, you've had a great war. I know you've had a busy weekend. Liverpool, Leeds, and I don't know where you are tonight. You're in a different setting than usual tonight.
Yeah, non-stop this weekend. It's good to have fights back, but sometimes you're here, there, and everywhere, aren't you? And there's no slowing down. I think we've got Bolton next week, Newcastle coming up, Liverpool, so all go again.
Brilliant. And it was good hearing you with Sam Maxwell the other night. I did enjoy that. I was flicking back and forward from that show. It was good.
Yeah, well, Sam's really good, isn't he? Really
he's a top lad.
I hope he gets involved in that side of things when he's done. He said he's never thought about it before, but he's made for it, really.
Yeah, he's good, and he plays it down how he can actually speak, Sam. Look, I know he's got the Well, anyway, someone who's got the because we're bigging up Sam Maxwell, and I might be bigging up other pundits later on. He's become a good friend of mine over the last 6-7 years. When we was at Box Nation before we both become unemployed. He's a former World Super-Featherweight champion. He's a seriously good commentator and analyst, seriously underused. I'm not saying that because he's my friend. And even though he's in a Benfica top tonight, because Cardiff aren't doing that great, it's Mr. Barry Jones. Barry, good to see you, mate.
Yeah, good. Thanks for coming on. And you're encouraging all these boxers to come and do my job. John. That's blatantly, no, I'm not even joking. That's blatantly what you're doing. Yeah, retire and start doing Barry's job. Thank you.
You're right, though, Barry. Apart from every boxer nicking all your work, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, it's all good, And the boxing's back, and it was great. Obviously, Saturday seeing, even though I was at home watching, but to see a real big crowd back seems like it's never gone away, doesn't it? It seems like just back to normal. So that's positive signs. Yeah,
it was good. And even look, I think, quite a lot of small hall shows at the moment, they're having problems matchmaking fights. I know it's an absolute nightmare at the moment. There's fights just not, cards are getting cut and a lot of these guys haven't renewed. But it is looking like, for a card that got decimated in Liverpool the other night, John, the audience didn't look too bad from what I saw on the YouTube.
No, it was good. I think all the lads who were supposed to fight, but who got pulled, the fans still came along. And Liverpool's... everybody knows everyone in Liverpool, don't we? So although their mate might have been pulled off the bill, they probably knew someone else who was on the card. And it was, it was good. It was good atmosphere.
It looked good, and I think the tickets have gone well for the VIP show in Bolton on Saturday. Luke Evans is on that. I know he's a really good fighter, and I know you rate very highly, John. So that should be good on Sunday afternoon. But unfortunately, I'll miss it because of a birthday party at home here. Not for me, mind you. Anyway, fellas, you know how this works, Barry. We chat 3 minutes of subject, and at the end of the 3 minutes, you know what happens, John, and Barry knows what happens. His ding-along comes out, and that's it. There's mayhem.
You have to put a warning on the YouTube video saying that.
Yeah. Right, ready? You ready at the start, Johnny? You got your stopwatch?
Yeah, we're ready to go.
Round one, if, buts, and maybes. Over to you, John Evans.
Yeah, the only place to start this weekend is in Leeds, isn't it, with Josh Warrington and Lara. Now, some of the stuff I've read on Twitter since the fight ended has been from the ridiculous, where Josh was headbutting on purpose to get disqualified because he knew he couldn't win, to just ranging right through the full gamut. Personally, I was pleasantly surprised with how Josh looked, and I think he can take a lot of positives. It lasted 6 minutes, but I think he put a few ticks next to boxes. I thought he dealt with the occasion great. That. None of us will be in that position, Steve, but Barry's got a better knowledge of it. Going in to fight someone who did so much damage in such a high-pressure, potentially career-ending fight, I thought he dealt with that well. But more importantly, I think he took shots well. He didn't look particularly bothered by anything that landed. In the dressing room afterwards, I like to think Josh is honest with me, and he said, yeah, you don't want to take those shots for 12 rounds, but there was nothing particularly hurt me. I thought his legs looked good, and I thought he looked pretty much like the old Josh Warrington. The big worry for a lot of us was that maybe Josh might just come apart the first time Lara landed, but that wasn't the case. I think there's nothing wrong with having a bogey man. Maurizio Lara might just be Josh's bogey man. He'll never have an easy night, but I think there's plenty there to encourage him going forward. There's still lots left in the tank.
Yeah, I thought the same. I thought he was really sharp, and he was in and out this time. I think the first fight, I think, because he was a better fighter on paper and the better fighter, boxing at a higher level, he thought he could just go into Lara and walk right through him. But just because you're the better fighter doesn't mean you have a better chin, doesn't mean you punch harder, just means you're better all round. And I think he just thought because he was better, he would walk through him, and it never worked, and he got tagged. And then, as brave as he tried to recover, he couldn't quite recover. But this time, he was that in and out again, like he did with Selby, in and out, and he fires his attacks. And so he was smarter. It was too early to say what would happen, of course, but yeah, he looked stronger and more focused. I think focus and discipline was there Saturday night.
Yeah, I think he certainly showed Lara that it was a different Josh Warrington, but like you said, it was absolutely impossible to anyone. No one knows what the outcome would have been. If you asked me at the end of round 1, I might have gone Warrington. At the end of round 2, it was Lara's power. But what would have happened after 4 or 5 rounds when the sting went out them shots? If that had happened, then I think Josh may well have just boxed his way to victory and might have stopped Lara late. I just think it's impossible to tell what have happened. And I do agree with you, John, about the wide-ranging opinions that have been spread over this fight. The most outrageous one is the people accusing Josh of trying to get out the fight because he knew he was getting hit too hard. I mean, at the time when the cut come, he'd been on top for 4 of those minutes. It was that last couple of minutes of the second round where you really saw Lara's power. I just hope we do get to see the third meeting, but obviously that's not going to be.
No.
Round 2, staying on a bit of Saturday night about DAZN, the coverage. I don't know, it'd be interesting to see, get your thoughts. I just thought I was really, first time I've sat down and watched a full DAZN show. I'm usually in and out. And I thought they were really good. I thought Lara Woods was good presenting. I enjoyed Tony Bellew. I think Mick Costello is what he is. The best around. And I thought Andy Lee was fantastic. I enjoyed Chris Lloyd's commentary before and the interviews. And I just think it's a really good package that they put together there with the team they've got. I was highly impressed. When you think you're someone like me who picks holes in everything, like we do as journalists and analysts, I think the only thing that I found a bit, not even disappointing, that I would have preferred is at the end of each fight, before you waited the verdict, they'd show a clip of someone padding up in the dressing room for the next fight or something. I'd rather just see the drama in the ring. But all in all, I think they made a really good. The show weren't the best boxing wise on Saturday night. We was unlucky with Josh Warrington, but I thought the production and talent they've got was really good. I was pretty impressed. I just wonder what you guys thought.
Yeah, I sort of feel the same way. I think the first couple of shows they tried to do too much. He was too busy. For our generation, maybe, Steve, and John's a bit younger. But it was too much going on for me. I couldn't focus. But now it's more streamlined, and I prefer that. And they got people doing their right job and not trying to do something they can't do. And I think that was important. So they have a good mix of, and even just changing the commentary team, for the main fights, just gives that a little bit of gravitas for those headliners. And it's different. As much as I want to criticise, because obviously, that's my job that I wanted. But they're good. I'm joking aside. Andy
I know you are. Yeah.
I think him and Mike. Mike's brilliant. I think him and Mike. They can gel. They still need to learn to be a team. They're both doing separate commentaries at the minute. It sounds great, by the way. I'm not criticising him. I think they will get better. That's the good thing for that. They're good now. They will get even better as they work closely together with each other. And that'll be so. That's a great point going forward. But Tony's good when he's allowed to be free and honest, and when he's not a friend of his, which he's open about. He can't be like honest unless it's a friend. He's got to be biased. He can't hide it. So it was good. Lara Woods is fantastic at the job, and the boys before, Darren and Chris, they do a very good job also. So yeah, I just pretty much just said what you said, Steve, but in a Welsh accent, pretty much. No for a man to say exactly the same thing.
There's only a few seconds left, but I was there, wasn't I? So I didn't watch it. I've not watched it back. But from my opinion, it seemed to fly through. There wasn't much time, but the fight just went bang, 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 bang. I don't know if that was because of curfews or this new way of doing it, but God, let's have that every week. It's much better, isn't it?
I'll put that to Jim Bentley because he loved that when he could at Box Nation. Round 3, over to you, Barry. Cinderella Man.
The Cinderella Man. There was a fighter in the early 90s called Steve Robertson from Cardiff who took a fight at 48 hours notice and won a world title against John Davison there up in the Northeast, and then went on the run of all runs, beating, first of all, Sean Murphy, who no one fancied him to beat him. Then of course, Colin McMillan, and then Paul Hodgkinson, and ended up beating Duke McKenzie. So, he went on to have a great run. And he wasn't a journeyman like people said he was, but he was domestic level at best. And I see so many parallels with Maxi Hughes, because Maxi Hughes was never a journeyman. He was always a very good fighter who just couldn't quite get over the line. That just seemed something was there. He couldn't quite get over the line. And he hasn't boxed at the height of Steve Robinson. He hasn't won a world title, a major world title, like Steve Robinson had. But he's getting there with he's having a run of an Indian Summers of Indian Summers. He really is. That John O'Carroll took that fight, and rightly so. It was a fight that a little bit of a test. When Maxi Hughes boxed him, what was that, 18 months ago, whatever it was. But
not less than that, I think.
Yeah. You'll beat. I did the commentary for it. You'll beat him, and then you'll move on. And then you'll get you back to world level, and then he bins that. Then he goes up to Dubai and boxes the Kazakh Kotochikov, who everyone was fancying, good boxer, and he almost knocked him out. I can't believe Kotochikov, to his credit, got up off a shot he shouldn't have got up off. And then Maxi outpointed. Then he beat Thailand, who was maybe a little bit past his best, but still a good win. And then Straffon there, we don't know how good Straffon was, but he just knocked out Tennyson, and Maxi could have stopped him, to be fair, but he's learned so much from his career, from his losses, and he's my sort of fighter because he's the fighter what boxing's all about, because I boxed from the leisure centres, worlding your way up with no TV coverage, and he's that sort of fighter where you'll get losses because you're taking fights at short notice, you're boxing people who are better than you at that stage of your career, you're taking risks where you maybe shouldn't take because you need the opportunities, but he's garnered so much experience from that, and now at this level, he's comfortable. No scenario frightens him or makes him panic anymore, and he's as good as he will be. And I think he's a threat for. Let's not get carried away from the top level, but he's a threat for some really good fighters.
You know what? I think the Steve Robinson is a great analogy, but I also think you can compare him with Josh Warrington in a way. I know Josh has remained unbeaten for a lot longer, but Josh was on those small hall shows, and when he leapt from obscurity against Samir Munemni at Holes ground on a Tommy Coyle, was it? I'm not sure what Coyle Boyle it was. It might have been Coyle Campbell. I can't remember. It was that he was in the away corner that night. It was only then that his career kicked on as well. But it's remarkable. Now he's got that contract with. Over to you, John. You have a good chat this time. Denzel Bentley, you were cut out then.
Yeah, I think if you've spoken to Denzel or spent any time with him, you like him, don't you? He's a good lad, an exciting fighter. And I was looking through, but he makes his comeback this weekend after being stopped by Felix Cash. Do you know it's just over a year, almost to the day, since Denzel fought Mick Hall on one of the very first behind closed doors shows down at BT. And at that point, Denzel was a raw, exciting puncher who was always down the card. He'd be on at 6 o'clock before the main bill started. And he was someone people thought had potential. Within 5 months, he'd taken Mick Hall apart. He'd been involved in a real high stakes fight with Heffron, then a big grudge match with Heffron where he looked really good and made improvements. Before he knew it, he was involved in a big unification fight with Felix Cash. And all this happened behind closed doors in the most sterile, hostile sort of environment you could do. He came unstuck against Cash. Cash was a fantastic amateur, a really good fighter who we've spoken about on here, and we think he could touch world sort of level, don't we, Steve?
Yeah.
But I still think there's plenty there for Denzel. He's disheartened by it. He's desperate to get back winning this weekend. I spoke to him last week and he said, yeah, I had everything. He said, yeah, I was British champion, but now I've got absolutely nothing again. And he sounds pissed off. I think we're going to get back the old Battersea Bomber Denzel. I think he's going to come out firing. I'm looking forward to seeing him in action. I don't think we should write Denzel off after a Felix Cash. I think there's a real good fighter in there, and I'm looking forward to seeing him in front of a crowd, up a bill, with some backing behind him, and let's get him back up there.
I think what you said there about it's not write him off, it's crazy. A guy has one loss, but you have to say there's not write him off because that's what happens automatically now. No, we're all victims of it. We crave about this undefeated record thing. People get carried away with it. But then when someone loses, we say, there you go, he's been exposed. But he got beat by a guy who's really good. And even if Felix Cash doesn't move on, he's very good at this level. So nothing wrong with that. I think Bentley comes back, Saturday night in a not a difficult fight against Andrew Robinson. Andrew Robinson, I think he'll do a job on Robinson, but he's a tough campaigner who looks easy to hit, but he's tough and he fires back. And if you give an opportunity, he'll give you a hard night's work. So it's a good fight to come back to, a fight he could win, but a fight that he have to be sharp in. And then why doesn't he get it? I think he definitely gets another British title shot, and he can win it, and he can move on from that. Again, as long as you learn, it's a loss. It's always a loss. But as long as you learn from it, and it doesn't consume you and take away your soul, then it's not the end of the world. You can move on and have more success. And I think that he's the sort of kid who might just do that.
I'll just touch on briefly what Barry said about people, always writing people off when they lost, and you can't. And what you said, you can't write Denzel off, John. I just wondered if you think, is there pressure on him this weekend to do a better job than Efren done on Andrew Robinson? Obviously, he's coming off a heavy loss to Liam Williams, who is who's at world level. I just wonder if he feels that sort of pressure at all, John. You speak to him a lot.
Well, we've gone way over the time, so we'll come back to that one afterwards.
No, we don't. We're never going to find out now. What did he say, John?
You tell us, John.
Say?
Does he feel there's pressure on him to do a number?
No, I don't think he does. I think he's got pressure on himself to wipe the slate clean, but I don't think he feels pressure from outside. It's just all internally. He's pissed off at boss. Basically.
That's important. You should always pressure yourself. You're always going to want to better yourself, but don't let it consume you. And the pressure from other people, that's what depresses you. That's what makes you uncomfortable. That's what makes you angry. That's what takes you out of your rhythm. You can't let that bother you. The same with the accolades as well, really. But you put pressure on yourself as a top class athlete. You should put pressure on yourself. Not as much to beat yourself up and say and then want to pack in or I'm not good enough. But you should be pressuring yourself to be better than you were the last time. And that's what success needs. That's what it takes to be successful. That pressure on yourself. There you go.
Oh, well, we've overrun in that round. We've had a bit of a Barney afterwards. Well, Barry's had his say afterwards. Round 5 will start now then, John. Evander Holyfield back in a licensed fight. 8 days' notice against Vitor Belfort. He's 59 in just over a month, middle of October. And I've got to ask, when is this nonsense going to stop? I mean, how this has been licensed by the Florida Commission or whatever ones it is? I think it's the Florida Commission. I mean, he's taken a lot of punishment, and it just seems over his career. And apart from monetary gain, what is there between a guy who's virtually getting his bus pass against a 44-year-old washed-up MMA fighter? And now you talk of Riddick Bowe coming back, who's even in a worse condition than Holyfield. Talk of Tyson Lennox. And what frightens me with this stuff is one day, one of these guys who's 55 is going to go in a real fight. That is scary. And that's going to happen the way this stuff is going. It's getting totally out of hand. And you're going to end up with a 55-year-old in against some fringe contender who's 28, 29, unless this stops. I can see that happening.
I don't see how it finishes. I think this is just part of it. Again, I've got no issue with YouTubers. It's just them getting licenses. That's my only issue, is that they get licenses. That's all my issue is. The fact that they fight each other or MMA fighters, it doesn't matter. It's not real boxing. But the older fighters boxing, like even Roy Jones when Tyson, I didn't watch that. I didn't want to see that. Because they've already sustained a lot of damage, like we all have. But theirs has been more because they box at a higher level for longer with more fights, superstars. And now, how can that be good for them? It can't be good for you. It's like you can't get a speed camera on your road. This car's going up my road 50 miles an hour to 30 every night. I can't get a camera outside here until someone gets killed. Until there's a fatal accident on my road, they won't put a speed camera on my road. It's horrible to say it, but I think that's what it takes. Yeah. So I hope it continues, because I don't want that to happen. But I think until someone gets seriously hurt, but it's not about the fatalities. I'm worried about with everything in boxing. It's the long-term effects. It affects us all. I retired at 25 at my last fight. I retired at 26, a young boy. But I have effects from fights. I had a long amateur career. I had a lot of fights as an amateur, and not so many as a pro, but I took a few whacks. And so the longer you go on, the worse that has to be, the long-term effects. We see loads of boxers from yesteryear who were brilliant, articulate, fantastic fighters, didn't take a punch, we thought, relatively, and now they can't string a sentence together. Like I just couldn't then. And that's, but it's a worry, isn't it? I mean, we don't want that. And these great fighters now are already slurring their words, Holyfield, Riddick, especially. And they're going to fight and take more damage. Well, if they don't get hurt in the ring, nobody cares. But then 5 years down the line, what are they doing? They're walking down the street one day and they're lost.
Round 6, we're over to you again, Barry. Anyone, not for tennis, anyone for juice?
Anyone for juice? It's obviously the Oscar Valdez scenario, fiasco with the drugs again. And it's, where does it end? I don't know what. Again, what I spoke about with the speed camera scenario. You know, does someone have to die in the ring before people take real action with people taking performance-enhancing drugs or diuretics? But that's the same, because people just think it might not be stuff that makes you fitter, stronger, faster. But if it's helping you lose weight, it does make you fitter, stronger, faster, because losing weight is part of the whole process of a fighter. Or you don't lose weight, but you have to go up a weight, like I did, and then you fighting bigger guys. But they take the risk of if you lose a lot of weight to make the weight, then your energy tank is smaller than someone else's. That's just natural, of course, and so you risk that for early gains in the fight. But no, if a guy can maintain that level because he's made that weight using drugs, then that's a cheat, and that helps your performance. So it's a performance enhancing drug. And he was fantastic against Burchelt. I didn't give him a chance against Burchelt.
No,
not a million years. I didn't, honest to God. And he not the knockout for me. It was the way he boxed. He was fantastic. Now I question why he kept that level of energy up for so long. But where does it? No one's getting punished. They're getting 6 months banned when they only fight twice a year and it's out the season. Or he's boxing Saturday, for God's sake. He's still fighting, I think. I'm pretty sure he's still fighting Saturday.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
Can you fail a test? Yes, you failed the test. No one's hiding the fact you failed it. He's apologized. I've never taken drugs, but obviously you have, because it's in your blood. And no, he's still fighting. Like, what the? Like, I know boxing is a horrible sport. I know it is. And we all know that. But that is literally that's like, how can you get away? How can you just sanction? How can you honestly hold your head up high and say, no, there's nothing wrong with this? And Constance Saul, he needs the money. He can't. No, I would take the fight if it was me, by the way. But he's risking his life now. What if something happened and it would have happened anyway?
Yeah.
But it happens now, and that's manslaughter.
Yeah.
I don't want to get on Tony Bellew about it, but it's something's got to give.
You're right. If there's so many loopholes, isn't there? All these WADA, VADA, who follows which rules, who implements, who takes results from one and makes a ruling on it. It's too complicated. And because there's so much money at stake, these lawyers, promoters, TV companies will jump through any possible loophole, no matter how small it is, to make sure the fights go on. It's disgusting, really. I saw something say, well, it's not, he failed an out of competition test. But if this substance is bad enough to be considered a failure out of competition, well, surely it's bad enough to be considered a legal drug in competition. It's still an illegal drug. Like you say, Barry, if it's helping you lose weight, you're not diminishing yourself in training as much as the guy you're fighting, and that's the benefit as well.
But how far out the training is it? Because you're making weight, so he might be 13 stone, so he's got down to 7 stone. I'm exaggerating, but and then he starts training, now I'm in competition. It's like, look, Liam Cameron had a sniff of cocaine, a recreational drug, and he admitted it. He got banned. It finished his career. And I'm not saying he shouldn't have got banned, because I don't do drugs, so I'm anti-drugs, especially in sports. But this is not worse than the other kid.
Yeah.
Nowhere near as worse. It's not as bad as him, I don't think, or it's no worse. And so what? There's no level playing field for anyone. That's the thing. And the same with and we've had over here, Dillian White had an issue, and we don't know exactly what went on there. There was discrepancies, and then the UCAD sort of recanted a little bit, so we don't know really what went on. But that was suspicious, and I don't want to single anyone out, but there's been many cases like that. They're not alone. So we need someone to go, this is what it is, and anything else. And if you if you accidentally take me over the counter, accidentally, it's one of those, that's tough. It's got to be something like that. I feel, no, it's got to be. It's got to be. Like Enzo McAnally had an issue, and I know Enzo's not a cheat. I know Enzo's not a cheat. He took some powder, there was an accident, and he had a little ban, but he's not. I know he's not a cheat. It was an accident, but still, you know, if they banned him for life would help. And I love Enzo, and I'm going to go he's a perfect example. I know he's not. I know 100% he's not a cheat. But if the ban him for life would save all these other real cheats from earning millions and ruining careers on their way, by the way, because they're cheating, then that's just one of those things. Like I had a problem with my brain scan. I was a fall guy because I was the first one. Well, it ruined my life. But if it saved other lives, then that was just one of those horrible and unfortunate things. It has to happen to somebody. And I think if we have just a blanket thing, this is what it is. Anything above or below, whatever it is, and you're done. And then we all know then. And then, because boxers are paranoid, by the way. We're paranoid people. I'm still paranoid now. That's why I'm worried you're going to ring the bell. I'm fuming over it. But like, don't talk, I'm talking. But it's a case of, we're so paranoid, I can't believe you wouldn't take something. No. Now we know. Like when Enzo did his thing with the powder, nobody really knew. Now we all know. So you have a boxing ball that gives you a list of stuff, and you don't put nothing in your mouth unless you know it's safe. They got nutritionists now. They get everyone to do stuff for them. So like, it's easier than it was before. I don't know why. And if you do get caught now, then you know, or you're trusting some guy. Because again, you're paranoid. You're not going to trust, especially these rich boxers. You're not going to trust some guy you don't know. No, you know what's going in your body. Oh, I don't know. I didn't know what he was doing. Yes, you do. I can't have it. That's the truth of it. I won't say this I would never say this on telly. I would say, but no, seriously, it is doing it, and it's because it's. Forget about them cheating and winning. It's the losses that the other guys are taking. They might never come back from that. That might ruin they might have had Hall of Fame careers, and they've been stunted because someone has cheated and beat them up. Like if Canelo's cheated all his career, he's bashed some people up, haven't he? Along the way, battered some people along the way.
Conceição's not going to be getting title shots every 6 months, is he? This is a big thing for Robson Conceição, and he's going in against someone who's failed a test in the build-up. It's wrong.
I just think, Barry, you spoke brilliantly there. I agree with what you say. I just think it's such a big problem in boxing, and what doesn't happen is, it's all what sorts out everyone's agenda. For promoters, broadcasters, like this week, we haven't heard a word from Top Rank or ESPN Plus or ESPN, who are actually part of Disney, who are letting this fight go on their network this weekend. If that had been a PBC or maybe an Eddie fighter, Eddie or a Frank Warren who had failed a test, and it was, and Bob Arum it was something Bob Arum could jump on because he had the opponent, he would have been all over it. Absolutely all over it. And while these people have also got their own agendas, promoters, broadcasters, managers, we're not going to cure or solve what is a major problem in boxing globally. And I'm telling you this, it's not just a problem in American boxing, it's a problem worldwide. It's going on in this country, whether you like it or not. It's going on under our noses, and people are getting away with it, through masking agents, not enough testing. It's going on. And, look, I've heard names, and obviously I couldn't say them because I must have my arse sued up, and I don't believe a lot of them. But it goes on in this country, and when there's money at stake, people will take risks. And going back to what you said, Barry, these guys who are taking these supplements, they're men with children. They fathered children. You're old enough in your mid-20s to know the difference between right or wrong. They're not a 15-year-old in the amateur gym doing what, some amateur coaches tell them, or a PE teacher who, an amateur coach who might not have much clue, but they're still following. These are guys who know the difference between right or wrong. That's when you have no sympathy. And what I do on BoxRec, for anyone who's failed a test, I'd put an asterisk and put what they found. Like, when you have Ralph, years ago, before you only remember Citro's Fight Facts, if a boxer was suspended, when I used to work at newspapers in the late 80s, the only way of getting American records was through Citro, and your paper would buy a subscription. And Mickey Duff and all them would fib you about records and all that. And then me and Buncey would get the record and they'd say what it really is. Calls Buncey and me murders. But on that would say, it would give you how many suspensions they've had from commissions in their career. So you could say he's been knocked out 4 times and was suspended after 3 of them. He can't fight there. And that's what boxers should do. Put when they failed the drug test. Put an asterisk next to their name. So it's there in print. Everyone's on BoxRec.
Yeah.
So that's my say. Anyone want anything else to add?
No, I think we've said it all, haven't we? It's disgusting. That's the bottom line of it. And money's ruling it. And you can also, certain fighters with certain stables, aren't you? know, I've got no doubt whatsoever that Valdez, he's been allowed to fight this weekend. You know, no one's made a fuss of it because of who he trains with.
Of course it is, yeah.
He's trying to curry favour with certain promoters and certain fighters because there's so much money down the line. It all stinks. It all stinks. Everybody knows the score, but I think money just rules everything at the moment. Money's ruling the big names coming back. Money's ruling this, and nothing's.
Sorry, John, because this is my podcast now, isn't it, for the next 10 minutes. But,
you've got 6 minutes 41 seconds before the light bulb goes off on this.
I can tell you a story what happened last week. No, but it's my real worry is the kids coming up, because you'll just see this, because everything for the extra gain, and the higher up the levels you come, the smaller the gains can be the biggest the difference. Just those little things make a big difference when you're both really good. So that little extra bit of juice or whatever they take, or powder, or injecting things in your buttocks, whatever it is, can make the huge difference. But when they're not getting penalised, like really penalised for it, then these young kids coming into the sport will be desensitized by it all. They won't see it as a problem. Well, if Canelo can get away with it, if he did, I know allegedly, I don't know, but again, see, we're all scared to say it, just in case we all get sued or upset anybody. But that's the thing. All these kids will see it and go, well, if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me, and that's how it is, and you'll do it, and then everyone will be taking drugs, and there won't be. And there'll be no room for anyone to be tested. Won't be at any point. Everyone will be taking juice. Maybe athletics have had this problem, haven't they? They've just gone. Everyone's taking juice, so it is what it is. And we ban them. I don't know how it works out, but they're not taking more title backs off people for taking drugs because they can't. Because they're saying we can't prove you took a drug. For that fight, right? I think if you're taking drugs once, the chance of being your first time is massively massively against you. If you're taking it once, your whole record should be stripped. That's the truth of it, to be honest. And then imagine that happening to some huge name now, and you've taken drugs, you've got to fine like 60%. Like I used to say, I'd fine a fighter 50% if he doesn't make the weight, or some silly like that. I would. I think so. But I mean, because sometimes some fighters cheat, don't they, with that? That's cheating itself. But I mean, certainly with the drugs, you find huge fines and ban them for a couple of years. It takes the soul out of your career. It could make the difference between being a great fighter and a rich man to being a mediocre fighter and a poor man. Because now, taking drugs is that as well. It be the difference between being a mediocre fighter and a poor man, or a great fighter and a rich man. I'd flip it. If you do that, and you take all the drugs, and you're famous, and you're rich, and you're successful, and you're brilliant. If you get caught, we take it all off you. It all gets sued, and all the fighters you face can sue you for loss of earnings because their careers could have gone where yours is. It would never be done, of course. But you imagine that. The risk that if you take drugs, you're banned for 3 years. 3 years in a boxing career is a career in itself, especially at the high level. And then they might think twice about doing that. But like you said, money talks, and boxing's the biggest whore in sports, and we all know that. And that's how it goes. But yeah. But this podcast was too nice. I thought I'd have to have a moan about something.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've tried to put the world right tonight, but I think Barry's just about trampled all over the world. You're off to play football for your Monday night team when you play in your white Benfica shirts, and I dread to say, I just hate someone to recognise you, come up to you and say that Oscar Valdez was unlucky, because the first time you go into a tackle, they're going 6 foot in the air there.
Barry, what is it now? It's 20-8. Barry will have been an early bath at 8:15.
I just hope there's not an Oscar Valdez fan, you know.
I'm playing 8:30 now, actually. I've got to go. But listen, that's my thing anyway. I think, but forget about that. What Maxi Hughes did on Saturday and what he's done in the last 3 or 4 fights.
You know what?
Makes you forget all the shit.
Just on Maxi Hughes, before we go, I'll read you something. When it got announced he was fighting this strafe on, I sent Maxi a little text saying, "Good fight for you." And this is what he replied. "This kid is basic. I've just got to not stand in front of him and I'll win easy." And he said that 3 months ago. You know what? We talked to Maxi and we wrote. He's brilliant. You know what, John? I did an interview in for VIP TV before the fight before this, and even 10 days before the fight, he was still getting up at 5 in the morning, doing a bit of training, and then getting in his little full transit and going to work as a painter and decorator. Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. I hope he's not at work today anyway. I hope he's not gone back painting walls today and decorating. I think they give him 5 or 6 weeks off before this fight to train. But it's all confidence with Maxi. And now he's in that gym. They believe in him. They're giving him time and giving him tactics. And he's seen that it's worked. He's just become a different fighter, hasn't he? He's fantastic. I just hope that, next 3-4 fights, he makes enough money anyway and gets out of this sport for something, because, if fighters can get out what they put in, he's someone who's more deserving than most of that, so... Yeah. Good, that last year, in 2 of those fights, he was the B side, John Carroll and the Kazakh. So, and Ireland was a hard fight, and now he's there on his own. And I want him to see him become an A side. And you know what? I don't know if you know him, Barry. He's a lovely, lovely fella. There's no airs or graces, no ego. He's Maxi from his little town in Yorkshire.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of his. I am, and just the way. Because he's had to do it the hard way, and you appreciate that more than all the Olympians coming into the sport, and they're brilliant, and we love those, of course. But he's had to do it from the ground up, and people don't realise how. I did that myself, Steve. You don't realise how difficult that is.
Right, fellas, we've got less than about half a minute left, so before it goes out the 40 minutes we've had. It's been really good talking to you, Barry. Enjoy football, and we'll get you on in a couple of months, I hope. It's always loved seeing you. I only see you on here these days, and John.
I know, mate.
I'll let you get back to Lloyd the dog. Thanks everyone for listening. I'm rushing this because we're about to get cut off here. Thanks for your time, Barry and John, and everyone else.
Thanks, Steve.
Cheers, fellas. It's going to get going any second, so I'll speak to you all soon.
For all boxing info, news, and latest interviews, amateur and pro, across the north, click and subscribe. VIP Boxing Promotions. Also, Twitter, Instagram and Facebook.